You are just in time for the grand tour of my video optimized podcast studio. For those who don't know me, my name is Sophie. I'm a founder of a podcast agency called On Track Studio, located in the Sunshine Coast in Australia. And today I'm going to take you through a complete tour of our professional recording space, going through all of the equipment that we have here, and then also showing you all the different sets we have on offer. So this video really is for anyone in the podcast industry, be that editors, podcasters yourselves, producers, whatever it may be. You're going to get a lot out of this little video. Before I forget as well, I do have a beginner's guide to successfully launching your show. So if you're early on in your podcast journey, I definitely recommend downloading that and following all the steps to get started. But without further ado, let's go into the studio. All right, we are now in the recording studio. Behind me, we have what I would say is the favorite set. Most of my clients and the people who hire the studio tend to gravitate towards this as their preference. It's just two armchairs. I think this is because, generally speaking, I would say that podcasting has become more of a relaxed, and the preference for podcasting is because it can be more of a relaxed conversational style of content. So naturally, this tends to be the set that people prefer when they come in to record. The second most popular set would definitely be the table and chairs that we have. Usually, depending on the conversation and the preference of the person hiring the space or my clients, we would either have the person sitting in the middle of the table direct to camera, or if you're having an interview style podcast, often putting each person at either side of the table. The table definitely used to be what people prefer, but I've definitely noticed a shift in the last 8 months of people really switching into that more relaxed set. So we also have on offer here, people don't tend to use it as much, but we do have a couch, which I'll just flick up a photo of that set that you can choose from when you come to this space. I think this is a really good one for solo podcasters. This is what I always push if people want a sort of relaxed look and they don't have either guest or co-host. This can be a really cool set option for them because they can sort of relax and have, just a different look to the other two sets. So those are the 3 sets that we have on offer here. We also have an option for people to actually bring in their own furniture. So this is just so if you really want to personalize the set, you have the ability to do that. So you can either just bring in an occasional chair to chuck on here. You might like to sit on the floor. We've had meditations filmed in here. So meditation cushions was a really cool look that you can absolutely pull off if you want to come in here. You can personalize it to the best of your ability. So I don't want to have anything too crazy in here, so it's going to distract or not allow someone to put in their own personality into that set. The other thing that I think is super cool when you come into the studio is you have the option to actually use lighting. So we've obviously got the main lights to light up the host and the co-host and their guests and all the things, but we also have these little lights that I bought quite recently actually, and they give you the ability to give a difference in background. So you might want pink, purple, blue, you might just want some warm light to make more of an intimate show. Those options are available too, thanks to these lights. I'll now take you through each piece of equipment and basically give you the promised tour of the space. Okay, so this part of the podcast studio tour is the producer's desk. So over here is where we have our Rodecaster Pro, which is the audio interface we use in the studio. It's probably one you've heard of before if you've done any amount of research into podcast recording equipment. It is by far the best on the market at the moment. Rode is the best brand in terms of audio, and they have really created a piece of equipment that anyone can use. So this is what we have opted for in studio. You can do basic sort of audio correcting within the system. You can also load soundtracks or music or sound effects into the system and use the buttons to basically play it live. It allows you to have a really integrated experience as the podcaster. So things like having a Bluetooth connection means that if you have something you want to play in the recording, you can have your phone connected and actually just play it in the moment, not have to do that in post-production, which is a really cool benefit from this piece of equipment. And you can also connect your phone. So if you're having any people that you might be dialing up to have a conversation with, or maybe you're interviewing a listener or something like that, you have the capability to actually have that phone conversation fed through and automatically put into the audio in the moment instead of having to worry about that in post-production, which the editors out there know we love to hear. If you want some more detail on this actual piece of equipment, I can do a separate video, but I'll keep it quite brief so I don't lose anyone when we're just doing the basic tour. So the next piece of equipment that I have and would definitely vouch for in my experience of having a podcast studio is what's called an ATEM Mini Pro ISO. It is a live switcher basically. So all of our cameras that are set up like in the set, they are all fed back into this piece of equipment with a HDMI cord, allowing us to, basically get the cameras feeding into here. So it allows us to switch between each person talking and have altering camera angles within the recording. Again, the benefit of having this piece of equipment is that you can do it all in the moment and not have to rely so heavily on post-production to make more engaging and dynamic switches between each person who is talking, which is super cool. Then the obvious one here is just the monitor. That's just what we need to have in order to view that live switching. So the cameras we have opted for in the studio are Sony cameras, the Sony ZV-1. They are the vlogger's camera. So basically they're super easy to use. The reason I chose these cameras for the studio is because when you're recording long form content, you run into things like cameras overheating, batteries running out of charge when you are in recording. So I had to research a lot about which cameras were going to allow me to install a dummy battery to allow us to not be limited in terms of how long we can record for. So that brings me to the next piece of equipment that we have here. They are the dummy batteries. I will be linking everything that I have mentioned today in the description below. I've tried and tested a lot and these ones are the best. I have bulk bought them, so if we ever need to run out, we won't be running into any trouble, and I suggest that you do the same. You do have to get a converter socket if you're an Australian person, because it is not an Australian socket, but a small price to pay for a really effective piece of equipment. When we are actually recording, we have all of our cameras hooked up to this dummy battery and of course the HDMI. So I have actually created my studio to have a stage-like platform and have all the cords running underneath it, bar a couple that we have to have on the top. I actually filmed a renovation series that you can see how we actually did that if you're interested, which I'll pop the link for that in the description. Basically, this is something I would definitely suggest that you look into if you're building a podcast studio, because cables do be everywhere and it can be a lawsuit waiting to happen if you trip any of your clients or friends. So no, I'm just kidding. But basically, something to be aware of, there's a lot of cords that go everywhere because there's a lot of elements that need to be connected in order to have a really seamless video production when it comes to podcasting. Brings me to the obvious, which is a microphone and headset scenario. So obviously you're gonna need a pretty high quality microphone if you are going for a podcast. I hope you know that. I really, really like the Audio-Technica headset. It is super good for, I guess, my studio, because a lot of the people that come in may never have recorded a podcast before, and it allows the mic to actually stay in position for both the host and the guest, which means if they're moving around as they're talking, you don't have to deal with the audio correction in post-production because it just remains there with them, which is a really massive asset to having these kinds of headsets. We also have, you'll be able to see behind me, these other pod mics. These are really popular for people who are recording course content or sitting on the table. Often people like to opt for the desk stand mic. Again, linked down below. The other thing I should mention are obviously the HDMI cords that run into the ATEM Mini. You need to be able to get that and either have a HDMI cord on one side and the other side being a micro HDMI connector, because that's what's got to feed into the camera, or you'll need to get some sort of adapter. So we use adapters, and we also have the camcord micro HDMI in the studio. So we've tried both are perfect. We have both. So whichever one you prefer, you can absolutely invest in and you will be sweet. Other than that, we just have headsets. So usually we don't get our podcasters to put these on necessarily because it can take away. Obviously, if they've got the Audio-Technica mics on, then they don't need any headsets because they've got it connected. But if they are just using the desk stand pod mics, then we don't necessarily get them to do it because we sit in and we monitor the sound. But these would be really good if you are doing your own podcast. It's really good to be able to hear live what's going on. So if you're hearing any sound that's going to interfere with the listener experience, you can address it right then and there instead of waiting till you're in the editing phase and realizing, oh, I can't actually hear what the guest is saying for whatever reason. So definitely get yourself a headset for your studio. I'm not that fussy on brand with these. We've tried a couple, all have been the same. I'll definitely link what we have used in the description below for you, of course. Other than that, we literally have just got little things to dress the set. So we've got plants, we've got a stack of books, we've got a couple of tables, and we just have this so we can sort of have a little bit of variance in the background. Some clients like it, some clients like the white wall, whatever goes, we like to have the option here. So that's literally the whole studio tour. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see any more extended information about any of the equipment, please comment below and I will definitely create videos on that stuff, because I know what it's like when you're first starting out, trying to get all the equipment, trying to wrap your head around it. It's overwhelming and it does not have to be. So thanks so much. I'll see you in my next video.